Tenzin Dorjee Kyungwadam Dene Bechen Atrowa Tenzin Dorjee Geshes Voilà, je m'imagine que t'as dans une single time de tendo. Tojalana me payanda, Zobi Sanji, Kumbarum, Virginia, Tobashago, Tedova Shavi, Chedo, and Bechurum, Boche, saying him, Becolon, Changi, Semchi, say Sembego, and Assembly.
We must strive to accomplish complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. It's for that reason we should cultivate the altruistic motivation or bodhicitta motivation. With that kind of motivation, we should all participate in this teaching.
Tangaran Chamaloke, any Ranta Yanji turned Sanji Comba Rumbuji Toba, Toya that turned in Yegu of us.
I believe that all of us are seeking complete enlightened state we call Buddhahood for the benefit of both self and others.
No, that's the internet. Any project Sanji Comba Rumbuji take and take image Hakoguris.
In this regard, it is, I think, important for us to understand what is complete enlightened state that we are seeking.
No, that's so that Sanji Compound say that Nyem Piri Tangi Pango, that Bangi del Juba Tangi Pangoris, Nisha, Yebe Shan Tangi Pango Yoris.
Complete enlightened state or Buddhahood is a state that is absolutely free of all kinds of mental defilements and obscuration, including what we call delusions or deluded states of mind.
Dini Pacha de Keba Pangoris, that Jubani Pangbazaman, De Pacha, that's having the Keba Pangoris.
In other words, that in order to internalize complete enlightened state, not only do we have to get rid of the two types of mental obscuration to nirvana or personal freedom from samsara, and obscuration to omniscient knowledge or wisdom, but we also need to purify our mind even of the predispositions or the latencies or the seeds deposited by these obscurations on our mind. So complete enlightened state is a state which is absolutely free of and pure of all kinds of mental obscurations along with their seeds.
That's Sanji Compa then the Yate, Rang Debu the Chibi Chedu San Tango Maris.
Now, with what kind of motivation, do we seek complete enlightened state Buddhahood is really not out of selfish interest. That is to say that, we don't bring so much of an I or the self into the picture. It's not like, I want to be happy, I want to be peaceful, I want to be, successful. That kind of selfish motive is, not part of our motivation and should not be to seek a complete enlightened state.
That's Sanji compounded in Yate, and they rarely yembe senje data nienta parma. Samala Shuri Meba, the Samalo Dini Paka de Kepale, Drova Shene, Sanji Company, Gogo Sambita, somebody shooting with Shene, at the taught down and they ran Sanji compounded in Years.
So, with what kind of motivation do we seek complete enlightened state, or should we seek complete enlightened state? If you ask, we develop what is called the altruistic motivation, seeking all sentient beings, regardless of whether they have been our friends or they have been our enemies or strangers. So we, get rid of any biases and prejudices towards sentient beings, and we wish all sentient beings to be free from the two types of mental obscuration to nirvana and obscuration to omniscient wisdom. That means we wish all beings to be free from the two types of mental obscuration along with their seeds, and we all want them to be in the complete enlightened state. With that kind of altruism, with that kind of a bodhicitta motivation, that we pursue complete enlightenment as our ultimate spiritual goal. Now, if we ask, if we don't pursue complete enlightened state, does that mean that we cannot really help or do anything for other sentient beings? Well, the answer is no. Without seeking complete enlightenment, we could still, help and benefit others. So it is not that until we become completely enlightened beings or Buddhas that we cannot benefit or help sentient beings. As we are, in the process or on the path leading to complete enlightened state, while we are on the path or in the process, we could still, benefit and help sentient beings. Bodhisattvas on the 5 spiritual paths, from the path of accumulation to the path of no more learning in the footnote. And within these paths, we posit 10 spiritual levels of the grounds of bodhisattvas called Dashabhumi. So bodhisattvas on all these different spiritual grounds and the paths, they are not yet Buddhas or complete enlightened beings, but they are completely dedicated, for the happiness and the betterment of other sentient beings, and they are tremendously benefiting, sentient beings. Of course, it's not only the bodhisattvas, who are benefiting sentient beings. When we think of those who are on the 5 paths of solitary realizers or Pratyeka Buddhas, they are benefiting a lot of sentient beings too. And the same thing goes with those who are on the paths of hearers or Sharvakayan. They are also benefiting a lot of sentient beings. And I mean, let's keep aside those, all of them who have already entered into the spiritual paths of different yanas or vehicles. Even those who have not yet entered into any spiritual paths, they could also, and they do benefit a lot of other beings.
So if,
how to say, we find that those who have not yet entered into the paths, or those who have entered into the paths of different yanas or vehicles, are all benefiting sentient beings, then we might say, why do we really need to pursue a complete enlightened state as our goal? The answer to that question is, once we become a complete enlightened person called Buddha, then we are most capable of helping sentient beings in the greatest possible ways and help them to realize their enlightenment.
Sanjay Kamdi did not Sanjay Dorjee, Bemi Hindu going to do it. That is Sanjay Samajipadi, Sanjay Dorjee,
Buddhas and enlightened beings could spontaneously and effortlessly benefit, sentient beings, and others who are, below the level of complete enlightened state, they are not necessarily capable of effortlessly and spontaneously benefiting sentient beings just like the Buddhas. A complete enlightened person or Buddha can, within a split of a second, emanate, many emanations of himself or herself to benefit millions and millions of sentient beings, simultaneously. So such a capability is not there. Even with bodhisattvas on the spiritual grounds, bodhisattvas do benefit tremendously sentient beings in their own ways, but they do not have the same capability as Buddhas do to benefit sentient beings effortlessly and spontaneously, to send so many emanations within a split of a second to benefit, innumerable sentient beings.
Ani dini sin jiwale ton sanje kompal ko go re te ko ba shebala ran sanje kompa thobi ina ta tende ni ba ta demba chi yungo so sa ran to sanje kompa tende niete ta junse tende chi re chemba chi res.
So the reasons why we pursue complete enlightened state for the benefit of other sentient beings is just because all sentient beings have been extremely kind to us, and we have that connection with sentient beings, and we need to repay their kindness. And the best way to repay their kindness is only if we could help sentient beings to be free from the two types of mental obscuration along with their seeds and become complete enlightened beings. And so to do that, So we see the necessity for us to become completely enlightened beings so that we have fullest capabilities to fulfill our vision or the dream, that is to say, to establish other sentient beings in the complete enlightened state. So with those reasons, we pursue complete enlightenment or Buddhahood as our ultimate spiritual goal.
오늘 상지지 공파 토비지 다 좋은데 가리고 그래서나 연애 람 타히니 버테 란지 셰고.
So if those are the reasons why we pursue complete enlightened state, now what are the main paths or the practices or the techniques with which we can realize complete enlightened state, if you ask? Now the paths involve integrating what is known as skillful means or a method, upaya, and wisdom or jnana. So with the integrated path of method and wisdom, we are able to realize complete enlightened state for the benefit of sentient beings.
남 탑신이 있으잖아요. 때 뉴스 해버려. 탑 가르에서나 탑지 차트 언니 니 점도 상주세 언니 상주샘 아드레스 아니 혈압 동반이래서 동이 좀 혈압 다 상주샘 전부 제다 동이 좀 혈압다 란질 시험을 좀 해봐도 그거 시험 그래서.
So when we say that we need to cultivate the integrated path of skillful means or method and wisdom to reach complete enlightened state, what do we exactly mean by method and wisdom? Because we are talking about two things here which need to be brought together or integrated. Skillful means or methods, or upaya in Sanskrit, or tap in Tibetan, it involves many things, and some of the most important skillful means are to cultivate great compassion or mahakaruna, and to cultivate bodhicitta or the altruistic mind of enlightenment. So these are the primary, if you will, skillful means or the methods that we must cultivate to reach Buddhahood. Now, by wisdom, of course, there are many types of wisdom. The primary wisdom that we are talking about here is the wisdom that perceives and experiences emptiness as it is. Emptiness or shunyata or sunyata or tongbani in Tibetan, the ultimate nature of all phenomena. So we need to combine or integrate great compassion, bodhicitta, with the wisdom realizing emptiness, and this is the integrated path with which we can realize complete enlightened state.
람 탑신이 버테 탑당 탑상 유지 센다 네 혈압 동반이부터 란주 세비 다 이게다 가르스나 이제 덴반 인세 군저 데마다 된다 덴반 인도스 하고 그랬어.
So we just talked about the need to cultivate both methods and wisdom together. The need to cultivate great compassion, bodhicitta, and integrate them with the wisdom gone beyond, or the wisdom realizing emptiness as is. Now we could ask the questions, so what are these methods and wisdoms grounded in, if you will? What is the foundation, if you will, for all of these methods and wisdom, if you ask? Now the foundation consists of what we call realities or the truth. We often talk about Four Noble Truths or the Two Truths. When we talk about the two truths, we are talking about conventional truth or Kunsok Deva in Tibetan, Samvitya Satya in Sanskrit, conventional truth, And then there is what we call ultimate truth or absolute truth, which in Tibetan is called Kadampa, and in Sanskrit called Paramattha Satya. So, based upon these dual truths, conventional truth and ultimate truth, we can speak about structure of the path leading to complete enlightened state.
Then is and that then you get Shigu, Sonsa, that the wonder of Carresena, a little number Sanjiburg and Tandu Nambe Tail Shoe, and Sanji competent in Neo Shepala, that Tambo Gond of Mini and Joseph Gond of Carresena, conjures and assessment to something about the Gurus.
So that means we have to educate ourselves, in the matters of the two truths, conventional truth and ultimate truth, because they provide the foundations for our structure of the paths leading to complete enlightened state. And now the other things, before, so which means, now how do we really enter into the Buddhist, practices or the Buddhist paths, as a matter of fact, if you ask. So at a sort of a preliminary level, if you will, Ngunjo, or preparatory, practice, we have to seek refuge or go for refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the three Ratnas. But that is a bit more basic foundation without which, we cannot enter into Buddhist paths. So the things that I have highlighted and briefly explained now are, necessary, for both, if you will, Sutrayana or Sutra paths and Tantric paths. Because some people might have this idea like, oh, maybe I heard that Tantra is a very speedy path and profound path. Maybe I can skip, a number of those things and kind of go roundabout or go from somewhere else into Tantric path. That is not the case. Because whether we want to follow the paths of Sutrayana, Sutra vehicle, or Tantrayana or Tantric vehicle, we have to understand the realities at the ground level, if you will. We have to understand and realize the two truths, conventional truth and ultimate truth. We have to practice methods and wisdoms together. And we have, through this integrated path, what we eventually realize are the enlightened bodies. So sometimes we talk about three enlightened bodies or three kayas. And all of these things are not something exclusive to the Sutrayana paths, because these things are related to both Tantric and Sutrayana paths.
Lam Rangi Shego was a machine, and then Jolam Chinete was a map in a picture.
Let me give an example of how, it is not possible for us to find some kind of a shortcut or a sneaky way to enlightenment, skipping all the other necessary paths. Without cultivating, the necessary paths and practices, is there a way or possible to sneak, so to speak, from the back door and then zoom, to the zip to the enlightened state? It is not possible. Let me give an example.
When Kamba Tonsa Nishusaji, that is the Kamba Tosa Yuana, Toke Kanye, Toka Toy Lego Yuana, that Kensi Jun Chimientas Kali Gogavas, that little Chimiana, what Jogi Leguras, in a Tosa Kurin Drogan, Tosa Gutia, Madripa, Juba Lem Duas.
So my example here is that let's say we think about 10-storied building, and maybe there are many ways to go from the ground level to the 10th floor. Okay, so one way is we can climb up the stairs. That'll take a long time, a lot of efforts, but we can get there, which means, the stairs start from the ground level and it connects through all the different levels, all the way to the 10th floor. So we can go that way. Or that we might decide to take the elevator up, so which will be faster, no doubt, and easier. But even if we take the elevator, there's no way that the elevator starts from the floor number 1 and then somehow skip the floor number 9 and then we get to the 10th. Is that possible? It is not, because the elevator has to go through floor number 9 to go to the floor number 10. Okay? So nothing can be skipped, even in the elevator, although it is a very fast and easy way to go up.
Jolam the country is Shanju is same time and any pay shoot chimbo. At the knitting toe and Anita and then Haka Lamten that Shanju is sent the Tony to be hearing, but that shoot chimbo he wish. Go there. Lambring down Hagan Jolam Tenny, Shanju is sent the ten Shumbay's Ganando.
People who sometimes, hold kind of an idea or a notion that I want to take right from the beginning, tantric path, which is kind of a built, if you will, or, advertised, so to speak, as like a quick and speedy and path to go to the enlightened state. So they think that they can skip so many other things, and as if the tantric path has some kind of a magic, it has no structure, but you take on it and you have a swift ride to the enlightened state. That is not the case. Tantra has a structure of a path that we need to follow. It is not a chaotic or orderless path, and some kind of irrational logic comes through, and then you boom into the enlightened state. That's not the case. And as a matter of fact, the effectiveness of the Tantra owes so much to the power of bodhicitta, altruism, and the wisdom gone beyond, the wisdom realizing emptiness. So those who really are, if you will, fit to practice Tantra, take the quick, speedy path, are those who have generated very strong bodhicitta and strong wisdom realizing emptiness as it is. So with the power of this intense bodhicitta and the wisdom gone beyond, if they take the structure of the tantric path, then they can really go fast, to the complete enlightened state. As it is stated in the Lamrim treatises, Lamrim is a Tibetan term which means stages of the path. It is mentioned very clearly that the speediness of the tantric path owes so much to the power of bodhicitta. I get some feedback, sound noise.
And that indeed is that in the Tinga Alita, not the Lamta, Doi Lam, Ningal and those in the Tangarats, Jun Rogu, you are that Toma de any Tangi Cuban Nangika, and Maranzu, type a compartment in Yago, Sonsa, and Taba turned in Yankee, consultants of any Tambo, Kecha, Carres, and any conjunction of Shelton to Shandu, the Kitchen by his canal, the Shandu Dunch by the Sondova, Sanjay Chut again with the Tabandova ships.
So all of us who are seeking liberation or tarba, which could be translated as liberation or enlightenment, where do we begin our spiritual path? If you ask, is we all need to begin with the practice of seeking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And through the refuge practice, and with the guidance of the three jewels, if you will, that we are able to enter into the spiritual path and pursue, liberation or enlightenment. As Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, which comes from 70 stanzas on the refuge practice called Kyamdo Trinjopa in Tibetan, where it said that Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, Sangye Choda Kindin, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are the objects of refuge for those who aspire liberation or enlightenment. Now I'm using both words to translate one Tibetan term called Tarba.
Voilà, sans ça, tinza ta sanji de cheta gindu kale, re ta shamdo tele, ji shamdo tan, rebi shamdo joshap tan reshes ni dos ni pasan chiyur sam tangures.
The practice of refuge can be very vast and profound. When we look at the practice of refuge, we can talk about, refuge at the causal level, causal as in cause and effect. And we can talk about what we call resultant refuge. So we can talk about causal refuge and resultant refuge.
That G shap se tanda ngaranchu, panar sosu ene ene shap shusak tanda sanji da chute gindu tele and jishap siguris.
Causal refuge involves Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in whom we take refuge now. In other words, to have those who have already become Buddhas, or the internalized Dharma, or who are the realized Sangha members, we seek refuge in them, so they constitute our causal refuge.
Then Jishap siete, Tanda Ngaransu, and Jishap Sanji the Chute Gindu Shandru Shene, Maupana, Ran Sanji Ta, Sanji the Chute Gindu Chajuaris, Shani Kundi, Shazu Kundi ran Chajuaris, they rank Jishap Sang, Tamal the Chajuaris, Tamar and Imagine Sanjigure, and Lontoku Chute Tamal Ranjil Shagre, Atagana Yita Gindu Conchu Ran Regular, Sonsa. The Maupana around the Sanjay the Chute Gindu going to Rayate, then the bishops.
So the resultant refuge refers to what we ourselves will eventually accomplish. That is to say that right now we go for refuge in those who have already become Buddhas or internalized the Dharma or our Sangha. So as a result of doing that, eventually we ourselves will become a Buddha, a Dharma, and Sangha. In other words, that ultimately and eventually each of us will become an embodiment of the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And that day will definitely come. And so which means that when that day comes, now we ourselves are, Buddhas. We ourselves have internalized Dharma, and we ourselves are Sangha members. So what we will become eventually, is called resultant refuge.
So that did the country in Anira Sanji the Chur going to the Gindu Kuntan, Rejayan Sami, Tawashego Maris. Maran Samal and Yamaki the Sanji Combatoyate, never do Toguris.
There's no need to kind of entertain any kind of doubt, like really if that's possible that one day everybody will become a Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we really don't have to entertain any kind of doubt with regard to that. We will become, triple gems eventually.
Then in the Take Church Dugumundua, Nimachigma, Sanji Rendu was some German, and then you are Madonna Randia Macaba, K. Casipe, Cabeta, Mambundus, and Debbie in Ray Mavericks. Rang Zogres.
Of course, when we say that, we will become Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha eventually. That statement is based upon the assumptions that we will pursue the spiritual paths leading to such goals. Of course, if we simply kind of think, you know what, oh, that's really wonderful. Everybody will eventually become a Buddha. So, okay, I don't need to do anything. Anyway, somehow, eventually, whenever that is, I just kind of automatically become a Buddha. No, nobody automatically becomes a Buddha. There's no automatic system that, operates here. We have to, of course, rationally speaking, and common sensely speaking, that we have to make efforts to cultivate a path that connects us to the complete enlightened state. And based on that kind of understanding and assumption, we say that eventually each of us and everybody can become a Buddha.
That the guy is an Ransu and Sanji Raya, Sanji Savant, Samaloli, Sanji, Tindro in Rory to Sanji Tamil Yajas, including the mosquito.
So, how can we say that eventually everybody could become a Buddha is because that everybody has what we call the seed of enlightenment or the potentiality to be a Buddha, including, as Geshe spoke in English, mosquitoes or the smallest of the insects.
So, in that the sovereign to me, but Shebala, only draw the chant go was good rest. Garigorison that Devata, and then Niji Chamber the Sanju Seminary that Chegugaris.
So, that being said, that every sentient being, including humans, have the seed of enlightenment, and that enables all of us to become Buddhas eventually. But then, of course, we need to activate and nurture that seed of enlightenment. So that's why all the practices and the paths that we talk about, such as cultivating faith in the three jewels, cultivating great love, great compassion, bodhicitta, and wisdom, all of these are, in a sense, like a conditioning factors with which we can activate the seed of enlightenment, nurture it, and bring it to the state of fruition.
Turns out the Savant young tigger, any Savant Tafsaka Git, any so in the same thing that Karasegore. Less or what you go.
In other words, that we need to prepare our mind, so that it is very conducive for the seed of enlightenment to germinate and nurture that, seed until it it reaches its fruition state. So this is like, like preparing a field, the soil, for the good seeds that you want to plant in them, and you will have nice crops. In the same way, we see, metaphorically speaking, our mind is like a field that needs to be prepared well so that the seed of enlightenment can be planted in our mind, and it can germinate in our mind, and then it can, grow into enlightenment.
Very nice. Between the type of 7 euros, 7 days, 7 degrees, 7, that correct. Then it's 7 euros. 70 minutes, ye and it, the less one can be double euros.
So when we look at the ordinary processes by which things grow, right? We could grow maybe wheat or barley or flowers or whatever. It's not just enough to have seeds, because we need to find fertile soil. We need to prepare the soil, properly for different seeds.
So that the thing that any saving the thing any hinsa himbo singdo that education the television and degree am the past that tell chain cargo go yore lu go yore chu go yore the mena saving the pisan pataga tabni chain that draw the mena kabe padu then sigmar was.
So even in terms of growing ordinary crops or things, barley, wheat, rice, flowers, and you just mentioned it. So we need good seeds. I mean, that, without good seeds, nothing grows. We know that. That's a fact. Now, we also need to prepare soils or the lands and make it very fertile, because fertility of the soil is very important for the growth of things. And then we put the seeds into the soil. Well, that itself is not enough. Now we need to provide other favorable conditioning factors for the seeds to germinate. So we have to provide the right kind of atmosphere or the heat, or we have to use good fertilizers for the growth of the seeds. We need to supply the water. So we have to do so many things. Otherwise, simply putting seeds into the soil is not going to do much, right? I mean, we can put a seed in a soil, and without providing all those other favorable conditionings, it may remain there for a long time, but nothing may grow. So that being as an example, so for us what we need to understand is that we do have a good seed, in our mind, the seed of enlightenment. And now what we really need to do is prepare our mind properly, make it conducive so that the seeds can, germinate in our mind. And in order to activate and nurture the seed, we need to provide favorable conditioning factors. So that's why we need to cultivate, faith in the three jewels. We need to engage in the study or listening to teachings. We need to contemplate the meaning of the teachings. We need to meditate on the teachings and the paths. So through this listening, contemplation, and meditation, we cultivate different levels of wisdom. Wisdom that arises from listening to teaching, wisdom that arises from contemplation, wisdom that arises from meditation. All these different levels of wisdom and other paths that we cultivate are, they're conditioned. They favorably condition, the growth of seed of enlightenment in our mind. So now I hope that you understand, how important it is for us to study and practice Dharma, listen to teaching, and contemplate and meditate on the teachings, because what we study is not something disconnected with the practice. What we study is also a favorable condition to activate the seed of enlightenment in our mind, to nurture it. So therefore, through study and practice, to use the modern language, or through traditional language, through listening and practice, that we are able to activate and nurture the seed of enlightenment in our mind. So the bottom line is this, that we must understand and keep this in our mind, that we need to begin with the practice of refuge. We need to cultivate this refuge in the three jewels, so that our practice of refuge is pure and correct. And then based on that refuge practice, we cultivate great love, great compassion, bodhicitta, the wisdom gone beyond, and other paths. And so then based upon these paths that we are able to advance on the levels and the paths leading to complete enlightened state. So that is the process we have to go through, and by which we can become enlightened beings eventually.
Kasi Tenzin Dorjee da
So these are some of the things I thought are very, useful to both myself and others to think about and to consider. And such, I spoke on these things as like a preliminary teaching before I return to where we left off in the wonderful text called Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshes Advices. So we are in a text where it says that someone from certain region, whatever that is, but we don't really need to be too much concerned with who came from where. But he basically requested for an instruction from a great Kadampa Geshe by the name of Geshe Potawa. So basically he asked Geshe Potawa what are the most important things to put into practice.
The calendar does it. Churches, that rankis, Kiva Matapa Mondo sometimes. And Ali Churang any Kiva Matapa and Mondo Gomgres, that some said some Tongress Kanam. Kiva Matapa Mondo, pay Yanni and some Gres Kanam.
Geshe Potawa told him that he should, he should do a lot of contemplation of impermanence, death, and dying. He said, just go and repeatedly reflect on death and dying and impermanence.
That the young, you might think here is sometimes they didn't maris. Kiwa Matapa Mount some say at the Kiwa Matapa, Kazangi, Sher Matapa, the Kiwa Matapa, Cheva Mo, Chamber your rest. That Kiwa Matapa says, I only to need pay Namchi, never mevach. Namchi never mevach some Congress canon.
So reflecting or meditating on death and dying and impermanence is not simply thinking that, one day I'm going to die. One day I'm going to die. One day I'm really surely going to die. But that's not, all. What is perhaps more important is to understand the uncertainty of time of death. And that's really more important in some sense to consider that we really don't know when we are going to die. And so that should motivate us to connect to and to pursue spirituality.
Lona Dipa Tunzung Tango, Korean Tarashoke Lambi, Togo, Wanda Mani, people Shimu Samsam.
So we really need to, remind ourselves about the transient nature of life, that we get up in the morning and then we really have to tell ourselves that would I be lucky enough, to be alive by this evening or night and say that I can go to bed. Anything could happen in between, and that is very possible. So we have to really remind ourselves about such transient nature of our life. So we have to really consider the possibility that this morning, I was lucky to get up and, eat my breakfast, but I'm not sure whether I will still be alive to be able to, eat lunch, a little later time.
That you make on the shows stay in a Tagonda Mania to cut the Yonta Mayon. 참여해서.
So we have to, kind of challenge our own sense of grasping at permanence of life, that we really remind ourselves and try to make it more intense. And you know what? Well, maybe by the noon I could have lunch, but then I really wouldn't know whether I will be alive in the afternoon or in the evening.
Saya tuh memang bukan nyaca jabni, ya ni tadi ngarang saya tu meginda ke saya tu hakuk marit resantang.
So we have to kind of tell ourselves that, well, I have done a lot of grocery shopping, so I might do one. But then I can't be sure whether I will be there to, enjoy them, or somebody else will, enjoy them.
Tolo je nyoye na te rang ko ta meginda ke sangi tringai ko ngur sangi meginda ko ta meginda te chi chang ta ngarang ko te chamerit resantang.
Or we buy a lot of clothes, or even the clothes we are wearing right now, we can't be sure whether at a later time, whether we will be wearing the same cloth, or the cloth does not belong to us anymore, and it belongs to some other people, that it has to be given to others.
Tanda misia ke minki yore te ina ane ta sangi ane rose ke cha machawing pa mata condition some.
So right now, we are a breathing and live human being with names. But tomorrow we don't know whether we will be still alive with our names, or we will be simply declared as a dead man or a dead human being.
Tanda ane ki pe me tsaya ane zupula tu musia tene ane nima ki pe ta sa ya tu se tanda mi sombo ni 사동을 배우는 가르쳐 그랬어요. 니마키 사동을 배야지 근데 차 그랬어. 근데 사람 배 로나드 토르토로 땅 거요 그랬어.
So right now, we have such a, very little sense of tolerance with any pain and suffering that should someone poke us with, a little bit of burning incense stick, we cannot tolerate even that much pain. But then we can be sure that once we die, we could be, cooked in the boiling, water or the liquids in the unfortunate state of rebirth. And what can we do then? And right now, we can't imagine being buried under the ground, but a day will come that we will be either buried or burned. So all these things we need to remind ourselves so that we challenge and counteract our sense of permanence.
Tande zupo de tsaki mo kibishene pe tele pe cha to ane cha to tande shen shegerde nyama ki thelal jujure asamta kadin junos.
And right now, I cherish this physical body so much that I do everything to protect it so that, it doesn't experience extreme heat or cold, or we just provide all the necessities to make our body very comfortable. And we are so, attached to it. But a day will come that this body couldn't be taken care of, and it will have to become a dust.
Burning, then... That's something.
So the way it becomes a dust is, if you burn your dead body or buried it, one day it will become a dust, right? That's the process. And then let's say if it's, we follow the tradition of burying, body under the ground, well, after 100 years, that it won't be there. You see, it has completely become nothing.
That tendrige sano tang bina ani pele karil penguers to some pangunes.
Logi.
Then they attended the chomataba, namching made the gomnit and gom the shavin, Johnson Mambuton, those gombina, that pento career is the something.
So we kind of remind ourselves in many different ways about the transient nature of life. And now you could ask me, what's the point of doing that? What's the benefit?
That tendrige king epe, Logita, tendrigi shumaina, a big papa like Kajuyamare, Kansuyamare.
So if we really, remind ourselves of the transient nature of life, that is possible any minute or second, then what happens is that we really, being aware of the transient nature of our life, death and dying, that we find it really much easier to stop creating negativities. So when we really develop the acute sense and awareness of that death is possible any time, in other words, the time of death is uncertain, it could hit us any moment, then I think it will become much easier for us to be able to abandon negativities and stop, doing negativities. And from complementary point of view, that we will find it much easier to engage in positive actions. Of course, we don't mean that as we engage in positive actions, everything will be smooth and no kind of a difficulty at all. But whatever difficulties come on our way, we are very determined. We are very courageous, to pursue, to face them, and in that sense, it will be much more easier for us to engage in the positive, wholesome actions. So then Geshe Tsultim goes on to explain that on top of that, meaning after reflecting on the uncertainty of time of death, then on top of that, or additionally, we should, repeatedly cultivate or meditate on love and compassion. Geshe Tsultim really did not say just meditate on love and compassion. He said Mangdukom, meditate on them, repeatedly or many times. So it's not enough to meditate on them once or, a couple of times, but we really need to consistently meditate on and cultivate such, attitudes.
And the same thing to Shebalani,
So as a result of cultivating love and compassion in our mind for sentient beings, by the power of these, positive attitudes, we will find it again much easier to dedicate ourselves for the benefit of sentient beings, to benefit and help sentient beings.
That the Pedal social good of the Yuna, that social run a chebe, put in the tea, any turned out drubalata, any tea turned out drubal, any Kalikaba condition, I think Kalin do some Marvas. Kalin the caller, Shambi Shambata, that Niji Yoros, then he chamber Shamba chamber, then he came a unique Hebazan, unique Heman, Yungo, Marita Yenaya. Kola and Shambi Shambata, he Juetani, consider me at the territory. Consider you have in a consider the Sanguya Mari.
So what we said earlier was that as we cultivate, love and compassion for other sentient beings, by the power of this positive attitude, it becomes easier for us to face difficulties, on our way to benefit and help sentient beings. Now, the example given here is that of how, good parents, they could easily sacrifice and dedicate their lives for their children. Because that, the child is born from, born into the family, and so they have so much love, for their child, and they care so much about their child, which is compassionate feeling, that the parents, they go to great extent to face difficulties and make sacrifices, and it all seems really easy, relatively speaking, for them to do such things for their child because of their love and compassion.
Shamba the hinge mount gom set. Ta gontan de machina gom meber, ta gonta chegures.
So Geshe says that, we should repeatedly meditate on great love and compassion. So I think it's really, important to talk a little bit about how to cultivate them. Without knowing how to cultivate them, simply if we just go on and say, okay, so that's what we need to do, I think doesn't cut it.
That Shamba Gondi Chane, Senke Tam Chele Minis, Ris Machepita, Ris Keju Marita, Keju Mare. Then I dry Papi Shamba Gong Missama Drendish Jumabre. Ris Majebe Senke Tam Chele Mini, and the water dinner chamber temperature Sambashagor.
In order to cultivate, great love or Mahametri for sentient beings, of course, we have to take all sentient beings without leaving anybody out of the whole, out of the whole category, if you will. And we should not be biased towards sentient beings that, oh, these are my friends, or these are the people I know, or the beings, and those I really don't know, strangers. So there's nobody to be discriminated against or left out. But we think about all sentient beings as our focus, and then sincerely wish them to be happy. And so we cultivate positive thoughts such as how nice it would be if all sentient beings find happiness. May they find happiness. So through such thoughts, we are cultivating great love for sentient beings.
That's saying the thing. Saying time to dying here,
so from the bottom of our mind, we have to really show the care for all sentient beings, regardless of whether they have been our friends or strangers or enemies. We do not see them in all those fashions or discriminate against them. From the bottom of our heart and mind, we truly wish beings to be happy. So now to cultivate great compassion, again, the focus is the same. We focus on all sentient beings, literally. Nobody to be left out, nobody to be discriminated against. But the subjective aspect of great compassion is different from the subjective aspect of great love.
And the Sinji Tam Jade, Devata Dungede, no, la mini, da Dungete the Trevi, and the Tana Sambitam Dimbasina Mindutam was shoot up with Shego.
When we cultivate great compassion or Mahakaruna, we focus our mind on all sentient beings characterized by different types of suffering or pain, and then we sincerely wish them to be free from the state of suffering. So the subjective aspect of great compassion is we wish sentient beings to be free from their problems, their suffering.
So that Shambata Nigi Miwa Sinji the number of Mandava Shambella Devata Dendushi and he don't hit the transition number. That number of Mandara Madumi, what you was the team Hakone awares.
So it would be good if we understand how both great love and great compassion have the same focus. That is to say, all sentient beings constitute the focus of both great love and great compassion. But where do they differ is in terms of the subjective experiences. When we talk about great love, its subjective aspect is wishing all sentient beings to be happy, to be endowed with happiness. But when we think in terms of the subjective aspect of great compassion, we wish all sentient beings to be free from suffering.
Shambatan, Shambatan, he is about Geshe, Senji turned Dubalane, Kajumaba, Yung Rescan, Tali, Kali Kabayana, Kali Chedu said to Baka, and a Yungus Kanando.
So great Geshe says here that if we do cultivate such great love and great compassion in our minds, then by the power of these positive attitudes, we will be able to put up with difficulties and challenges on our way, and relatively speaking, it would be easier for us to benefit and work for sentient beings.
Kari Secretary not the Gombe Cuba, Chowamataba, Gombatan, Tangana Shangi Shambatan Hiji Gomba. The University, Dendos, and the Kari churches, Chernamje, Nilo Tombani, Mount Gomsta, only Mount Gomgre.
So additionally, Geshe says, meaning that he already talked about the need to meditate repeatedly on death and dying and impermanence, especially the uncertainty of the time of death. Need to repeatedly meditate on great love and great compassion, etc. And additionally, in addition to them, he says that we need to repeatedly meditate on the ultimate nature of phenomena that is called emptiness.
No. That Tombani Gondisani Ganga and the Chen Mabere, some Nepet, some Janjua, artisanal kettle hunger.
So as we meditate on emptiness, if we simply think that, oh, you know what, everything is empty, meaning nothing exists at all, that is a complete error or a wrong thinking. Now we have fallen into the extreme of annihilation or nihilism. Emptiness is the ultimate, mode of existence of all phenomena. In other words, when we ask the question, you see, how do phenomena actually exist? What is their final mode of existence? What is their ultimate nature? If we ask those questions, then our answer to the question is emptiness. So emptiness is, the ultimate characteristic or the nature of phenomena.
That's all maybe something
So it is really essential for us to understand what kind of emptiness we are talking about. Empty of what? Because I already told you that if we simply think that nothing exists at all, as if the world is empty, meaning nothing exists at all, but that is the wrong meaning of emptiness. We are, annihilating the existence of all phenomena. That's an error. So we need to ask, what do we mean by emptiness? What are we talking about? Empty of what? If phenomena are emptiness, what are they empty of?
That major Major Tomba Tomba the Carre Tomba is an Rangi Trubat Mabby race. Rangi Trubat Chu conducting in a Rangi Trubat Chu Korang to Trubat Yamaris. The major terrace.
So, what phenomena are empty of is what we call objective existence or inherent existence. Rangshingi Meba. Okay? In other words, that nothing exists from its own side or in and of itself, objectively. Nothing exists from the side of phenomena. So that kind of existence is not there. So phenomena are empty of that kind of existence called objective existence or inherent existence. And I, believe that those who have studied with me for a long time, so they probably remember this. And I often, mention that when we go through Heart Sutra, Prajna Paramita Hridayam Sutra. And we find many statements such as, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no this, no that. There are so many no's. So what are we really talking about? With the use of such language, no eyes, no ears, so on.
So we have
to ask the question to ourselves that we know eyes and ears and nose and all these things exist. So what is really meant by no eyes, no ears, and no nose, and no this and that? So what really exists is just mere terms and concepts. In other words, phenomena simply exist as mere terms and concepts. That's all there is. There is no inherently existent eyes. There are no eyes existing from their own side. They are simply mere terms and, conceptual thoughts have imputed the terms eyes onto their basis, and that's all. So we can think of every kind of phenomenon. When we categorize phenomena into many different ways, we can talk about what we call composite phenomena or produced phenomena, Geshe. So when we talk about produced phenomena or products, of course we can talk about how these have been produced by causes and conditions. When the causes and conditions come together, then things are produced. But in the case of non-composite phenomena or unproduced phenomena called Gyeshe, while we cannot talk about causes and conditions here, but we can talk about, the sense of relativity here, how they exist in relation to some other things. So that's why, we need to understand the different meanings of what is meant by, dependent arising, relativity, produced by causes and conditions, and imputed by terms and concepts, and so on. Unproduced phenomena or non-composite phenomena are posited in relation to phenomena which are composite or produced. So without composite phenomena or produced phenomena, there cannot be, unproduced phenomena. As great Nagarjuna states in his fundamental wisdom treatise called Mula Madhyamika, and Keshala quoted the lines from his memory, he said, if produced phenomena couldn't exist that way, how could the unproduced phenomena exist in that mode? So as we meditate on the ultimate nature of phenomena, we have to consider the concept of what we call dependent arising and relativity. How things are produced by causes and conditions, or how things, even if they are not produced by causes and conditions, because they couldn't be, but how they exist relatively, in a sense, in relation to some other things. So first we have to make efforts to understand dependent arising or pratit samutpat, tenjung, because dependent arising is used as reasoning to establish emptiness. So if we don't understand dependent arising, then we won't be able to understand what emptiness is. Great Indian Master Acharya Chandrakirti states elsewhere, and Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, said, with this reasoning of dependent arising, one can cut through the network of distorted views or perceptions. In the sutras on dependent arising, it is said that because this exists, that exists. Because this has been produced, so that has a reason. And great Nagarjuna in his precious garland or Ratna Avali also states that because, of tall, we can posit short. Because of the short, we can, talk about tall. So tall and short are posited in relation to one another. So through many different ways of the reasons that we should, try to gain insight into emptiness, the ultimate nature of phenomena. So if we understand it, so what's the benefit, if you ask now? So if we do realize emptiness correctly, then we will be able to abandon all kinds of misconceptions or distorted perceptions. So I think that's a good place to stop today. And can you share that? So I believe, you have got enough things that you can meditate upon. Geshe talked about the need to meditate repeatedly on the impermanence, death and dying, especially the time of uncertainty of death. Then he talked about the need to repeatedly cultivate great love and great compassion. Then he talked about the need to repeatedly meditate on the emptiness. So I think we have talked about a lot of these things that we all can reflect upon and meditate on. No. Okay, come to share it again. Correct. They can shout to the one again, come to share it. And then again, they can lost out the shout again. Never shout to it again. The color in the. Oh, that I don't know again. I can't see. This is it. The curse of the mingle. Can I have almost make Miko? Oh, yeah. I need that the little do. No, sir. I need to get a set. Okay, never choose that the shop search is the one stop to Lamlong Yard. Hello. My comma? Okay. My comma is taking to Tenzin. Oh, it's okay. Come on again. I don't say it. Oh, no, sir. Then again, I should the lost opportunity come again. So prayer have been requested for, I think the name Geshe said it there because I don't have the name, so I don't want to make the mistake of saying the name wrong. So the person who passed away, McCorma or something, that's what I heard through the system. And I have been given a name here. My prayer has been requested for my Wu for successful surgery and recovery from surgery. No, okay. Oh, no. Is that it? Madam Jaguba? Not again. The league and that and the Shinkin down. And then that night in the Mambo was. No. So the Chet Alling
series so what any nimbo that test come with.
So we have, prayer request for, someone who passed away and someone who is dealing with health issues. And of course there are others, whose names are not with us, but we have to think about all of them. And what we are going to do is, as always, we are going to invoke the great compassion of Avalokiteshvara, or Generesic Buddha of Compassion, and then we are going to recite his name mantra, the essence mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, and dedicate them for them. Okay, tanda ken losa di shoge chusu timbara wa ken somede.
Re chusu timbale peronas.
Di machine ken sa nyima de ne ke yo marwa. Tagar bege. Ta chorwa.
Tagar te da ani ta. Za nyima ti
sa nyima de ke sungje yo mare.
Ti ga sa nyima re.
Mare ke ti losa chaba chi losa pupu re de wa ke.
Ale.
A pupu chi lo pa san pe ba de la chiden so we di si de wa nyima de la nga zo sungje yo re ya ze go yo ka.
Ande Zanimale Zegos came in and sung to you again.
Hello, no, sir. Casayati Lapsana Madayan.
Sung to you, yes.
No, sir. So I'm just reminding you of the coming, Tibetan, Vietnamese, I believe Chinese New Year. That is on the February 7th, Thursday. It's the first day of the new year. We call Losar, and as always, we try to have a simple ceremony to observe it, and at 7 a.m. in the morning. So everybody is welcome to the ceremony, and we will do prayers for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and maybe Geshe. I say maybe because I don't know, and for the world peace. And then a simple breakfast will be served, and then after that, you could go to work and go to school. And then I asked right now with the Geshe because I didn't have information, what about the Sunday right after that? Because Thursday is the first day of Losar, but then the Sunday would be the fourth day if anything is happening. Nothing is happening, so Sunday we will have teaching. As usual. Okay. No, sure. Then the Sunday, I think there will be, I think in the morning, people who take
6 o'clock.
People who would like to take one-day Mahayana precepts, you can come to the temple on Sunday at 6 a.m. in the morning to do the one-day Mahayana precepts, and then we will have the regular teaching later. That's all I have to.
Kyojin gave it all at any, and Sanji temper but you never show. Dembazimbi any, Joy Zube, then the ship at Tamban Jaku is someone on a Paromatam Miji. And then Sanjo Nambat Henny, and then Cousins about Trinity Jabata, 2 Ginos and Bemilu Yomashoz. And then Kurdung show woman the 20 Shawan is a Dropata. And the DJ come to the end of Montibic like Henny, to Jin to the Bemilu Yomasho.
Let us dedicate our collective marriage for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other holy masters, live long, and may the sacred body, speech, and mind mandalas of His Holiness the Dalai Lama remain unharmed by the malicious intentions of both humans and non-human beings. And may all his visions and dreams for the sentient beings, come true. And may other holy beings also live long and be successful in their holy activities. By the power of our marriage, may all spiritual communities and practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. By the power of marriage that we have gathered together this morning, may it contribute to the purification of the two types of mental obscuration, along with the seeds in the minds of all mother sentient beings, in our own minds, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
Color's good, is it?